Oh, YouTube? What? Stop laughing at me. Today we're going to take this Nerf Rival Kronos 18-500 and we're going to make it look more like it's appropriate for any Star Wars fan films and or something that I would use. Let's get to her. So the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is drop it on the floor. So what we could do, if we wanted to, is just mask off the parts we wanted to and tape it mask off the parts we wanted and tape it just like I did in my other lightsaber video. If you did like it the way it was, but wanted to get rid of this, you could use some acetone or nail polish remover. I'd suggest doing it like a small amount, like a test amount in case, because if the acetone is high enough, I'm not sure, it might melt the plastic. But in most cases it shouldn't. So we are going to get my screwdriver. So what I want to do is because I want to leave this part the color it is, and I'm maybe going to add some hockey tape to the bottom to give it a little bit more grip. But I want to paint the orange pieces independently of the white pieces. So we're going to take this sucker apart. Oh, my tea's ready. Whoop. Okay. So I forgot to buy sandpaper, but so instead I'm going to use the 2-part epoxy to fill this up. But there's like the 2017 Hasbro little writing that you may or may not want on there if you're going to use this. I mean, honestly, for a prop, you're not going to really notice it's there, but if you're nitpicky, I know some people who are, you'd want to sand it off. But we are not. Okay, what we're gonna do is just take some quick pictures of what it looked like on the inside, just in case. Because I have a habit of taking things apart and then not remembering where they go. Okay, so this piece here largely isn't visible. So I'm just going to leave it the fluorescent orange and just put it aside. But this piece, the trigger, and this loop on the bottom are all visible. The safety switch is also, but we can take that off simply. No! Since I'm not painting this part, I'm leaving it black. I'm just gonna put it aside. Okay, we're going to leave this one largely intact until we're done with the other side. That way I still have something to kind of look at. So the first thing I don't like is it's hard to see, but right here, like right in it, it says Nerf Rival. And while I don't mind the 18-500, I don't want it to say Nerf Rival. So what we're gonna try and do, if it works, is we're gonna use some of this plastic welder and we're gonna fill it. It's a 5-minute epoxy. So theoretically, okay, we'll just let that set and come back in a bit. So while we wait for the epoxy to dry on that, I'm going to take these fluorescent bits that you can see, I'm going to go and prime them black. I'm just using the little Rust-Oleum black quick color. It's for plastic, metal, whatever. You can pick it up at any hardware store. You can still see it, but the epoxy has filled it pretty well. There's still some ridges, so I'm just going to go over it one more time to just fill in a bit more. I'm going to try and scrape off any excess that doesn't need to be there. Wow, super potent. Whew. Okay, now that the epoxy's all dry, we've got it smoothed out. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna prime this all black before I put it over the metallic color. Okay, now we've got all these orange pieces that were gonna be exposed, primed black. We're gonna hit them a shot with this kind of coppery color. So what I've done now that it's all primed up, instead of sanding this smooth like you would to make it look really nice, what I did is I used my razor blade and dragged it along the side. And so what this gives me is little nicks and serrations to add kind of character to the gun, like it's been dropped or hit, like it's been around. Later on when I dry brush over that, what it's going to do is give little like rusted highlights. So now it's ready to go to be primed. Now that it's been primed, ready to go and paint it silver. Okay, so now, I can't remember what I was saying last time because I had to wait till overnight to let stuff dry and set, but we've got the silver pieces all done. It's time to go and start applying my R2D2 sea glass to them. I'm going to paint these two pieces blue, this piece like a brownish color, and then of course the orange parts have been changed to a bronze. So we're gonna hit that up, and then we get to see if I can put this back together again. Now that it's all painted, it's time to put it back together. Figure out where all these parts go. Luckily, I had the foresight to take a picture. It's flipping. But I have that to use as a guide to put things back together. Once it's together, then we'll start putting a black wash off on it to make it look weathered, as well as adding some dry brushed silver to also add to that weathered look. And then eventually we'll seal it and we'll put the tape around the hand of the grip so that it's easier to hold. And that should be cool. So while I let this paint, it's not quite dry yet, finish drying, we'll do that. I'll try and really figure out where the pieces go, and then well, I guess you'll just get to see me put it back together and fast forward. Tea's ready. Okay, so now we've got this chassis put together. My son has found a screw, or a spring. I don't know if it actually goes to this or not because I can't, when I look at the picture, it's not there. But can you what? Yeah. It's okay, it's fine. Really curious as to where that spring goes. Hey. Together, caulk it, and still works. So that's step one. Now we can do some of the detail work. Okay, so now that we've got the gun back together and assembled, paint's all dried. Actually, like a week's gone by since I last looked at this. We've got some nice damage marks in here, but now what we want to do is to take this from this to its finished look. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this copper artist paint, and we're going to dry brush and get some of the high points to get it look worn before we put on a black wash. So let's get her done. I decided on the bronze because silver is the typical thing, and I thought that being a space gun, it might be made out of something other than your typical gunmetal gray. This next part, I'm not 100% it's going to work the way I think it's going to, but I'm going to explain it anyhow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this trim clad enamel that's black and this alcohol, and I'm going to mix them together to make a wash that I can wipe over the gun to give it a more aged and dirty look, as opposed to just like a clean off the factory line. I always thought the aesthetic of Star Wars was very much one of repurposing and old, especially during the time of the rebellion and the war, because, well, during the war just things are dirty. It's not so glittery or shiny, especially like, so when you compare episodes like 4, 5, and 6 versus even 7 and 8, where you see the First Order and nice shiny new stuff. So this gun is more like somebody, a smuggler, or somebody who's... Actually, I'm going to go and do this first initial bit outside because it's going to... That failed miserably. But it's okay. Half of making art and making things, being creative, is taking chances and it not working out. That's how you learn. I did think now to do this with ink, but I don't have any. So, instead of mixing ink with water, I'm just going to take this black craft paint and mix it in with water. This should also make a similar effect, where it just becomes murky, and what we want it to do is just really settle in. So we'll put it on everywhere. And then we're going to take a dry paper towel and just kind of dab it. This way it just gets kind of the bulk of it off, but not, lets it sink in places. Yeah, see, we can already see, like in here, it's leaving that. You can see this. It gives the copper, I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but it gives the copper and that a more enriched look to it. So we'll go over that again. We want it to really sink into where the writing is, but not really. Get into the crevices really well. We're going to give this a few minutes to just soak before we wipe it off this time. Got over eager in my wiping. Alright, so this time we've let it sit just a little bit longer. We're going to go back and wipe it off again. And more of a dab than a wipe. We just want to get off that, let the dirtiness kind of stay on it. The trick to authenticity is just to keep layering things. That way it gives it kind of a fake history. That's where a lot of problems with some people who make props is they tend to make them, in my opinion, too shiny. So like, especially like we want it to sink in right along these rivets here, because that's what's going to add the depth to it. Especially like up on the caulking mechanism, or whatever you want to call this up here. Oh, I should have totally filled that in now that I see it. Oh well, 'tis done. Next time. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to hit it with some clear coat. The clear coat I'm using is this Krylon matte sealer. You could really use any one, but this is just the one that I happen to use. I got matte because I don't want it to be shiny, I want it to be dull. What this will do is this will just seal in some of the weathering effects, make it less prone to chipping off and flaking off. And then after that, then I'll do the final step, and that's putting the grip tape on. Now that that's dry and settled, I'm going to take this hockey tape, just go around the handle, so there we have it. Gotta kind of get it better light here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe. Check out the last time I modded something over here. There's some other videos down here, and there'll be some comments, or there'll be some things in the description below for you to check out, whether it's my Twitter or Instagram. Till next time, embrace the dark side.